Disclaimer: having done our best to tell a truthful story, this is nonetheless a work of fiction. Unless otherwise indicated, all the names, characters, avatars, memes, businesses, places, events, and incidents in this book are either the product of the author's misguided imagination and or used in a fictitious manner. Any resemblance to actual persons, demons, witches, ogres, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. The content of this book is for entertainment and informational purposes only, and is not intended to diagnose, aggravate, transmit, treat, cure, or prevent any condition or disease. You understand that this book is not intended as a substitute for consultation with a therapist or other licensed practitioner. Please consult with your own physician or healthcare specialist regarding the suggestions and recommendations made in this book. The use of this book implies your acceptance of this disclaimer. Although the author and publisher have made every effort to ensure that the information in this book was correct at press time, the book is about failure. Thus, imperfection should be expected and accepted. The publisher and the author are providing this book and its contents on an as-is basis, with the probability of imperfections, errors, inaccuracies, omissions, weird stuff, and other potential inconsistencies. Beginning. There are more things likely to frighten us than there are to crush us. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca. In the spring of 2008, Robin Finch, a young influencer, set up an interview with failure on the Wake Up and Leap Forward podcast. By the end of the podcast, the listeners were suddenly ready to take the first step. After pulling back the curtain, absent fear, they quickly stumbled on success. They had stopped walking in the shadow of other people's words. Interview, Part 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 87th episode of Wake Up and Leap Forward, a podcast created to get people like yourself to realize there are many perspectives out there you can learn from and that you are not just one story. In the past few weeks, I've been reviewing the feedback and questions I get from you, my listeners, and one of the themes that seems to repeat quite a bit is the feeling of fear people have about failing. As I look deeper into your feedback, the fear is biggest when thinking about taking action and that first step. So for today's episode, I've invited a very special guest, the ultimate source of knowledge on this subject. I've invited failure to today's conversation. Plenty has been written. There are books and seminars out there, TED Talks, and advice everywhere, and yet the fear of failure is still very present for many. So I thought that perhaps by having failure on my show, we could get to a more fundamental understanding, pull back the curtain, and see what this is really all about. I'm thinking that if we can provide our listeners with information directly from the source, they can see things from a different perspective that can help them move forward. So let's get started. Hello, failure. Thank you for coming on my show to talk to me and my listeners.
No problem, Robin.
To be honest, I was not really sure you'd make it. I suppose you're always so busy, so I really did not know what to expect.
On my own, I'm not really that busy, but I get it. For you humans, the busy chatter, doubting, worrying, forming expectations, that's kind of normal.
I guess so. I make a lot of assumptions, like all the time. But I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm trying to reflect a bit on my own projects and the types of questions I'm getting from the listeners of my show. And I suppose life in general, too. I've prepared a few questions to bounce off you. Can we start?
Sure. Jump right in. Let's have fun.
Cool. So I'm thinking about the problem first. When thinking about doing something, making a decision, For many people, for whatever reason, your name pops up. It's as if your name is always hovering around and putting pressure on me, like I'm being watched or something. I was wondering how you do that. How do you manage to float around like that? You seem to be an expert at it.
An expert? Thank you for the compliment. Floating and hovering is actually quite easy for ideas and thoughts. They are weightless in the physical world. So I guess the expertise is innate. It's inherent to what I am and what I do. And the hovering you describe, well, therein lies the answer to your question. I'm not at fault.
Not sure I understand it at all. Your name is not weightless. In my case, and what my friends say about you, does weigh, and quite heavily. Anytime we need to choose, make a decision to do something we have not done before, just the thought of your name carries a load. Fear, shame, humiliation. Sometimes it just mortifies and bears tremendous guilt. Surely you can take some responsibility for that heavy load. How could you not?
Well, since you asked, I'll make it easy for you, Robin. I can't take responsibility at all. I'm just a word. That's all I am. Hello? Robin, are you on mute?
Oh, no. I'm here. It's just, well, I guess I have to get clear on what you mean. Just a word? I feel that there's more to that. I've never really considered failure just a word. Maybe we can start again?
Robin, when you invited me to the interview, we did not clarify up front what I am. It's never too late, though. Like I said, I am a word, a tool, a device, a component of what you call language. What I know is that for you and your buddies to do things together, you need devices like me to understand each other. There are thousands of tools like me out there, and each tool is supposed to be useful for a specific purpose. Guess what? You've pretty much invented my kind, words, to coordinate and interact with others.
Yeah, but I think you've taken advantage of your status. There's a power about you. I can tell you that the feelings you evoke are not pleasant. I told you, you can mortify me. Sometimes you make me afraid to do things or make choices.
I'll stick to my story, Robin. I'm just a word. And by the way, on another call, someone mentioned the sticks and stones rhyme. I think it helped make the conversation move forward a bit. Do you know it?
Do you mean sticks and stones can break my bones, but words will never hurt me? I see. This is something that my teachers in school taught me to deflect when other kids called us names. But to tell you the truth, that didn't work very well. I remember feeling humiliated and angry either way with the name calling. But since then, I haven't given it much thought. Let me think though. Nothing's changed. Words can in fact hurt. It's still true. Sticks and stones can break my bones and words can also hurt me. Should it change?
Oh, yes. Change for sure. But the change should happen elsewhere. Let me try something different, okay?
Okay.
Remember, I compared what I am, a word, with a tool. Tools, like hammers or knives, might have been first made by humans to accomplish a special task. To hammer in other stones to build a home, or knives for cutting up plants or animals. Let's say that was many years ago. Then circumstances changed. Societies and communities grew, and today, knives and hammers are being used in so many different ways. Doctors use hammers and knives in surgery. Oh, and they also use small rubber hammers on knees to check for reflexes. Or take the wheel, for example, as a tool. Maybe with the original purpose to help carry objects or people from point A to point B. And wheels have so many other purposes today. They can be small gears to make other gears move, steering wheels on cars and ships. Tools might have had an original purpose, a specific need at the time they were conceived, but as the world constantly evolves and circumstances change, the purpose of a tool can also change.
That's an interesting idea. What you're saying is that based on the need, one can change the purpose of a knife or a wheel. In your case, though, as a word, your purpose is already predefined. You just use the example of the wheel to carry objects. And in your case, you carry a meaning. That is the way you serve a common purpose when I and my buddies can communicate. By agreeing on the meaning you carry as a word. So the tool explanations kind of make sense for tools, but for words, I think it's different. It's not making sense.
As I said before, I'm just a word, Robin. I don't carry anything. And if you're talking about meanings, meanings are carried by humans, not by words.
When I use a word, Humpty Dumpty said, in rather a scornful tone, it means just what I choose it to mean, neither more nor less. The question is, said Alice, whether you can make words mean so many different things. The question is, said Humpty Dumpty, which is to be mastered. That's all. Lewis Carroll, Through the Looking Glass.